There is no greater disability in society than the inability to see a person as more. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Munir, and I am the volunteer director of Global Forum for Teacher Educators. Today, we are joined by Janae, Emily, and Laura, and we'll be discussing about the challenges and opportunities faced by persons with visual impairment. Janae, Emily, and Lara, I warmly welcome you all on the behalf of all the participants of Global Forum for Teacher Educators.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, before starting the session, I would like you all to share your journey of disability. So, I would like to request Janae to break the ice.
Okay.
Mute microphone button.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am an individual who was born with eyesight and a hearing impairment in both ears, and I eventually lost my eyesight due to being diagnosed with glaucoma somewhere in the sixth grade. I did not lose my eyesight right away after my diagnosis in middle school. It kind of decreased bit by bit each year. It got a little bit worse. The last time I was able to relatively see decently, I had to been maybe a freshman in college or a sophomore in college. So I've been without my eyesight for at least the last 20 to 21 years or so. I'm college educated. I have a bachelor's degree in communication studies from Wright State University with a minor in sociology under the area of social change. I currently um, do part-time contract work, community work for a arts and services organization here in the Columbus, Ohio area called the Harmony Project, where we have an emphasis and focus on using music and the arts to bring people together across all social and economical lines. I'm also an active member of the American Council of the Blind, and I'm also the founder and creator and CEO of a startup company called Sight Unseen LLC.
Thank you so much, Emily.
Hi. Whenever I was shortly after I was born, I was diagnosed with a rare eye condition called coloboma, which is where there can be a hole within any kind of eye structure in the eye due to something going wrong in development, usually due to something genetic. Um, but mine happened to be in the retina, so I had some vision as a little kid, but when something is already wrong with your retina or it's already damaged, there's a greater chance of it detaching. And so mine detached completely whenever I was 5. So now I'm totally blind. And I am 21, and I recently got my massage therapy license in June of this year. And I work at a chiropractic office here locally to me in Louisiana. And I also am a content creator for YouTube, and my channel is called Emily's Journey with Blindness.
Wonderful. Laura?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lara Irvin Kassab. I have retinitis pigmentosa, which means that I have been progressively losing my peripheral vision and only have a very small percentage of my central vision left. I was diagnosed with RP in my mid-20s. And I guess the first life lesson is I didn't know I had a vision impairment. I didn't know that everyone didn't see the world as I saw it until my mid-20s. So I was a high school teacher for 13 years here in the United States. I taught history and sociology, anthropology, psychology. And so when I realized my vision was progressing more rapidly, I went and proceeded to get my doctorate. I am now a teacher educator at San Jose State University here in California. And I focus my research is on educational technology, assessment, and also on emancipatory educational practices. So I'm very excited to be here today with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have diverse audience over here as well from around 65 countries, and I hope that everyone will be learning something from the lives of you people. Janae, I would like to ask question to you first. If you can share about your journey, like the struggles, the achievements that you have uh, in your life. Can you please share it with the audience?
Um, my struggles and my achievements. Well, I am a accomplished pianist. I play the piano. I have been since the age of 6. So I started playing the piano, of course, before I went blind. And after my eyesight began to change in middle school and high school, I pivoted to learning to play by ear, and I still play to this day. And being a part of a arts and service organization, which I mentioned earlier, the Harmony Project, I'm also a pretty decent vocalist as well. That's some of my accomplishment. Like I said, I'm a college graduate, being able to attend college and to earn my degree and even go on and begin my master's degree work. I feel is an accomplishment. To be a homeowner, to own my own home, is an accomplishment for me. Some of the struggles I have had to face have been primarily in the world of employment. Um, Trying to gain a job. I got a job right after college, working for a regional bank, and I held that job for about um, 9, 10 years. But after that, looking for additional employment or wanting to elevate my career was very challenging, even when I was currently working for the bank, because so many people want to assume that because you have a disability, that there are things that you cannot do. And even though you share with them that due to the emergence of technology and other resources, there are tools out there to assist you with being productive and being able to assist that company with still reaching whatever their bottom line may be, or even progressing strategically and logistically. So many people still see your disability as a hindrance. So in the work world, I've faced a lot of challenges and struggles, and that's where a lot of my struggles have been, is in employment.
Okay. Emily, would you like to shed light on your struggles and achievements?
Sure. Some of my achievements would be that even though I couldn't see, I've participated in various different cheer teams from the time I was about 5 until I finished high school, and then I have participated in different orientation and mobility or cane travel programs, which has helped me become more independent. And then, of course, finishing massage therapy school has been was a big accomplishment for me, and getting my first job at the chiropractic clinic, and my various um, volunteer things that I've done with several different organizations here in Louisiana have been big accomplishments for me. Some of my biggest struggles have been in the um, education sector, because the schools, they might have written me an accommodation plan, with we will do this, we will do this, we'll do this to help you out. But when it came down to it being followed, some of the teachers or instructors didn't always want to follow that. so that's where I've had some of my biggest struggles, or just like the general public, trying to explain to them that I can do what I can, that I can do pretty much anything a sighted person can, just with some modifications. I have been very lucky so far within the massage therapy industry that there um,
Um, we can't hear you, Emily. Lara, would you like to share your experiences, your struggles, and achievements?
Sure. Oh, did Emily come back in?
Emily's back. Yes, Emily.
I'm that was pretty much it. Go ahead.
Um, so thank you so much.
Go ahead.
Okay. Um, so some of my biggest accomplishments, in addition to being legally blind, I also am neurodiverse. And I would say that uh, some of my biggest accomplishments have been getting my doctoral degree, um, and um, being an educator. And then, as far as challenges go, um, I think one of the biggest impediments there are two things that I would say are big challenges that I might generalize out. And one is just being able to get around transportation. And I don't know if Janae and Emily also have experienced the transportation, like, and people's perceptions of being able to get places, right? Like, it's hard to be independent. It's hard to get around. Um, we have family and friends who we can ask for rides and things, but I tend to feel like I'm a burden when I ask all the
Hmm.
time, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, and I'm really blessed that I live in Silicon Valley, where I'm 3 blocks away from a bus that runs every 15 minutes. We have light rail, but it's still a challenge even with this access. And I know that I'm very lucky, but so many of us with visual impairments, it's not a matter of do we want to go somewhere, it's how can we physically get there, right? And I think this is a challenge faced by a lot of people with disabilities. The other thing I think that's a very huge challenge is that a lot of times people tend to think that because we have a physical disability, we also have an intellectual disability. And so a lot of times when people talk to me, when I'm out and about and I have my sunglasses on and my cane, they'll speak really slowly and talk to me as though, and I have a doctorate, and in this room, Emily has a massage certificate, Janae has a degree in communications, and both of these other two wonderful people are business oriented business, like it's a very big struggle and a challenge socially to overcome the fact that because we are physically disabled, it does not mean that we can't that there's anything intellectual going on. And please feel free to chime in, Emily and Janae, if any of that resonates with you.
Okay. So,
My struggles too.
I,
yeah.
I want to, agree with Laura. That's the big stigma that people think because you're blind that your brain doesn't work, that you're mentally challenged, mentally incapable. And like she says, people will come up to you and they will talk really slow as if you are, I hate to use this term, mentally retarded. I hate to use that term, but that's how they treat you. And, just because you cannot see or you don't hear very well does not mean that you're mentally incapable. That's totally incorrect. So yes.
Yeah. So, my second question goes to Emily. Emily, can you please share that has disability affected your well-being? If yes, how?
I would say sometimes
Uh, Emily, we can't hear you properly. Um,
Emily,
let me
can
see.
I make a suggestion?
Hello.
I don't know where you are, but you may want to find a nice spot to kind of stay there because you're breaking up really
Yes,
bad.
Emily.
Yeah. So I don't know where you maybe trying to find a comfortable spot so that you
Sorry
have
for
a
the
little
technical
really
difficulty.
yes, yes.
Continue, please. Okay, I would like to request Lara if she can go for the same question, and then we'll come back to Emily.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Has disability affected your well-being?
Yes. Um, it can be very isolating because it is a challenge to get around. But at the same time, it also is almost empowering and like to meet and network with people who understand where you're coming from. So, all of us met on Facebook in a support group page, and um, I think it's important for us and for those who love us to help us find ways to get and stay connected. Um, yeah, that's yes. So
Yeah, and Lara, don't worry. Global Forum is always there to connect people, and you're very much right. It's very important to have the connectivity with one another, to learn from one another, to grow. Because it's not only about to keep other people isolate. Because the term "other" is also, for me, not good. We all are equal, and that's important for us to take everyone on board equally and to give all the rights and privileges to everyone. Janae, the same question goes to you.
Okay, I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat it?
Okay, has a disability affected your personal well-being or mental well-being?
Just kind of like Laura said, being able to be socially connected. Because we are visually impaired or totally blind, it's not like we can, for example, be in a social environment and see people across the room and make eye connection and make a connection. Because most people, I'll use dating for example. If you're looking to date someone of the opposite sex, you can't look across the room in a social gathering and make eye contact with a guy, or a guy can't make eye contact with you.
Yeah.
Even if you're at a function and you see a friend that you know from maybe high school or college, how can you see them if you're out somewhere? If someone doesn't walk up to you and say, "Hey, Janae, it's so and so from college, from Wright State," how would you know that that person is there? So socially, it can affect you personally when it comes to interaction from a social standpoint. And like Laura said, we all connected through being part of a support group on Facebook, but not just a virtual support group, but there needs to be more ways in our communities to connect, not just locally, but even internationally and nationally, and be able to share those experiences and find positivity within those experiences, not just always focus on the negativity. Because sometimes, depending on how you were brought up and what neighborhood or what things you were exposed to as a young person, that can affect your ability to grow personally and socially.
Okay. Emily, would you like to shed light on the same question? Hello. Hello, Emily.
Hey, Holly.
Yes, you're back now. Can you please shed light on the same question? Okay, we'll come back to Emily again. Lara, I would like to ask you the next question first. What are the main barriers that you have faced from the society pertaining to your disability? If you have ever faced anything, if you would like to share any incident.
Um, and I'm going to apologize in advance. I pass it because my dog is sorry. My dog is having issues.
Janae, if you would like to continue and give the answer for the same question.
What was the question again?
Okay. The question was, what are the main barriers that you have faced from the societies pertaining to your disabilities?
Main barriers I face in society. Um, well, like I stated earlier, um, employment. When you number one, when you're trying to get hired for a job, when someone looks at your resume, number one, a lot of times these days, I'm not sure what folks are looking for when they're looking for through candidates for a particular job. Furthermore, not enough people understand what tools are out there for someone who's blind or vision impaired, such as a screen reader. I use a screen reader called JAWS. JAWS is an acronym that stands for Job Access with Speech. It's a Windows-based application. It's made by a company called Bespero. Bespero used to be under the parent company name was called Hinter Joyce. There's also another screen reader called NDVA. It's a more open source screen reader. And a lot of times, for example, if you're looking for a remote job and you're having to do a video stream to answer questions or do a video interview, kind of like what we're doing, and you're hearing something talking in the background, if people aren't made aware of these kind of tools that technology has been able to provide for someone like me, they shy away and shun. And so someone like me gets turned down for all types of job offers because of people's lack of knowledge and awareness, and there needs to be more of that in various ways. So that's one societal barrier that I've had. I've also had challenges like Emily has stated earlier with an education. You may have what we call an IEP, which is an individual education plan. And a lot of times teachers don't want to follow that plan. They want to deviate from it or totally ignore it. And they're not understanding as a teacher, as an educator, you're actually hindering me as a student by not wanting to follow the plan or at least discuss the plan or at least consider why these educational goals are in my educational plan. So I've had issues with that while I was in college.
Okay. Yes, Lara.
Sorry. Okay, dog is under control. Yeah. So I
Yes.
agree on the IEP. Also, Janae, when you were talking, it made me also think about so I'm a teacher educator. I teach future teachers about teaching. And I think another big barrier is the fact that we just don't talk about, right? In schools or in life, we just don't talk about what it means to be blind or what kind of diversity, disability diversity, or other diversity there is in schools. And so in society, people tend to be afraid that if they talk to me, they'll catch blindness, right? Like there's
Yes,
this kind of disconnect. And I think it's really important, in addition to following IEPs, that educators also bring in representation into the classroom and have us. I would much rather people ask me about my disability than ostracizing, right? Like if
or
you're
true.
curious, ask me a question. And I feel like that's another, it's not just the transportation that can push us out, but by not being included in conversations and by not normalizing disability, we tend to isolate the students who, and that's not something that really goes in an IEP, is
That's
that social piece.
yes. That's very true. If I can, well, I'll let Emily chime in first. I want to answer a little.
Can y'all hear me better now? I tried to fix a couple of
Yes.
things.
Yes, Emily. If you'd like to share something about the problems that you have faced from the society related to your disability?
Oh,
Hello, Emily.
um, hey, can y'all still hear me?
Yes, we
Yes, we can
can.
hear you.
Okay, there we go. Because my something just happened. Okay,
No
so
issue.
my some of my biggest struggles, definitely with society, has just been like like they were saying, like the social piece, like in the classroom, and just I feel like teachers not knowing like what to do when they have a student with a visual impairment or any disability. So they would just rather avoid the conversation rather than, try to find a way to include, the students in everything that's going on. And I think that that's something that needs to be worked on and everywhere in society is, if there is someone with a disability, don't just assume that they don't want to participate, or just because you're like uncomfortable because you don't know how to help them, walk up to them and be like, hey, I would much rather you walk up to me and say, hey, I've never been around someone who can't see. Can you show me if you need any accommodations? Can you show me how to help you? That would get you much more respect in my book than just trying to block me out from whatever's going on.
Okay, and one thing I just want to add, when we talk about disability policies, disability curriculum, for example, in teacher education in our country, we are also teaching disability studies. In the same way, we have for policies as well. But the question in my mind is like, are we involving disabled people to be the part of policies while designing the policies, while designing the curriculum? I barely see their participation, and it only happens when the policies are in practice, the curriculum are in practice. We realize that there are barriers. Why not to take them into loop from the beginning so that we can say that the equal representation has been given to them as well? But it's not happening. Like if you'd like to shed light on it, Lara, anything, because you're from the teacher educated education background. uh,
Yeah. So when we're talking about policies, there are also some very strong advocacy groups, both on
mhm,
Facebook and Twitter, that people can get involved with. But I think one of the phrases that I find myself repeating quite frequently is no decisions about us without
yeah,
us,
true.
right? No decisions about us without us. And to some extent, the system is set up right to keep us from being able to be part of these conversations at the policy level. When in California they want to make laws or school codes or new curriculum, it's
Mhm.
okay. Well, you need to get to Sacramento. Once you get to Sacramento, which is our capital here in California, then you have to like be able to get to and from meetings and hotels and all these other things. And um, in all actuality, the COVID-19 shutdown has been more empowering because people are starting to think about ways in which they are offering opportunities virtually. And those virtual opportunities provide those of us who have challenges with transportation to be able to be more participative.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
but I think it's also we need to also step up and be advocates. So I've stepped up and become more of an advocate in some conference and professional organizations to advocate for continuing virtual strands so that we can continue to provide access um, to being a voice in these policies. Uh,
Yes, and I also thank you for joining this platform, because when I posted this about this session on the disability group, There were few people who were interested. It shows that there are people who really want to advocate. They really want to move ahead, share their experiences, their lives, their struggles, their achievements with others. Janae, I would like to ask you a question. In the society, I'm not sure about the American society, but in Asian society in particular, females are facing a lot of socio-cultural constraints. I just want to ask you a question. What are the educational challenges female who are also facing disabilities are like having in the society? Like, what are the educational challenges disabled females are facing?
Okay,
Or
what are
you
the
can share
challenges?
your experience as well.
Okay, let me make sure I'm hearing the question because there's some background noise. You said, what are the challenges that females with disabilities that are facing?
What are the educational challenges that
Education challenges?
disabled female learners are facing, or you have faced in your life? Anything?
Well, let me say this. In America, females don't have those challenges because America has been a more of a free flowing, for the most part, democratic society. A lot of people come from other countries, especially women, because we allow women to get an education here. If anything, from my experience, if you are a person of color, if you are black and you're a boy, you tend to have more challenges if you have a disability or even just by your race than actually females do. Again, maybe in other cultures where education is not valued for a girl, but that's not really a big issue here. Now, just on disabilities in general, like Laura said, there's a lot of isolation when it comes to, even Emily spoke to that. My mother is a retired special education teacher. And so I have watched her as a teacher, as a child of a school teacher who deals with kids with special needs, face that challenge of trying to integrate kids with disabilities into the regular classroom. When I was growing up, before I started losing my eyesight in high school and middle school, I was in early intervention programs because when I was born, 'cause I was born with rubella, which is a form of measles. Um, I was in what they call visually impaired programming. And as I got older, based on my parents working with me at home, I, I guess, sort of tested out of some of those early developmental programs and entered into what we call being mainstreamed, or some people like to use the term partial inclusion or total inclusion. And that's something that, like Laura was saying, needs to be done more. We're more included instead of excluded. I understand for some children, depending on the severity of their disability or their impairment, especially on the visual side, you may need to be in a quote unquote separate classroom, but that shouldn't be all day. You may start off in maybe the classroom just for kids with visual impairment, but then you should have a time where they get to go to regular education classes, and maybe the visually impaired teacher, the person that teaches the visually impaired child, works with the regular education teacher so that the child is getting a full round of support in their educational system. And I had that experience growing up where I may have had a teacher that was specialized in working with visually impaired kids, but I worked alongside of my teacher who was teaching all the what we call regular education kids. But again, going back to your original question, in the United States, in America, women don't necessarily have that challenge with education. Again, our challenge in America is more or less people with disabilities in general getting proper treatment in the educational system. And like I said, other people come from other countries because we allow women to get an education in this country, whereas other countries, shun, keep girls from being educated. So if you're in another country and you have a disability and you're a girl on top of it, you're going to have a double disadvantage, unfortunately.
Okay. Emily, during schooling, did you face any educational challenges?
During my schooling, I did face a lot of educational challenges, especially during my high school, because at least where I went to high school, you rotate between Each year we had 7 different classes, so you had 7 new teachers each year, and so it was definitely. I had some teachers who who were amazing, but I also had a couple of teachers who didn't really want to follow my IEP, who thought IEPs were not the best. It shouldn't have been there, and so made my life really difficult, and not wanting to give me my accommodations, to where it was like a weekly fight to get my accessible materials in a timely manner, because they didn't want to give them turn them in where they how they needed to be turned in to my teacher, the visually impaired, or um, save them on a thumb drive so I could look at them on a computer with a screen reader or a braille display. Like, they just had to fight tooth and nail to get some of those accommodations. And I think it comes down to just teachers not knowing a lot of the time how much it hinders students to not get that. And then also in college, during massage therapy school, I feel like trade schools especially need to be trained on this, because they like to have the attitude of, we don't have to help you, when at least here in the United States they do, because they're receiving federal dollars if you get help, depending on how you get help. But if you're getting like a grant or a scholarship through the government, um, they're technically mandated to follow the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I just feel like a lot of there needs to be a lot more education on the back end of like our teachers and administration and things like that. And I, at my trade school, I tried my best to like let them know and work with them that y'all are a smaller school, but y'all are receiving federal dollars, and so y'all still have to follow the Americans with Disabilities Act completely throughout the entire school. And
Okay.
so I was able to work with them a lot on that.
Mhm. Thank you. Lara, you have a very long journey of education from schooling till doctoral level. So I'm curious, and the audience is also curious to know if you faced any educational challenges during your journey.
I absolutely 100% did. However, for me, because I have central vision, the challenges weren't as much about my vision, but more about my neurodiversity, which for the international audience, that is a term that can be exchanged with like autism, autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think that was more of a challenge to me. Um, so, but with my vision, I think similar to what Emily was saying, that it's right now we live in a world where there really is no excuse. And I'm going to speak as a teacher and a teacher educator right now. There
Yeah,
is absolutely no excuse whatsoever for a student not to be able to access materials,
correct.
because we have technologies that will help visually impaired students. It will help students with hearing loss, students with processing disorders, like any of these things. We have technologies now that will solve the problem if we as educators will take the time to ensure that our materials are accessible to that technology.
So, so true. Uh, Shine, anything if you would like to add on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Sorry, I lost my connection for a second there. But yes,
Oh,
I agree. Accessibility is a has been a big issue for me. Not just even when I was in college. Even though I talk about being able to have a mom with a special education background, my parents had to really fight. and advocate. And they showed me how to fight and advocate when I went to college. And I'm still fighting and advocating. And what Laura said about making things accessible, not just in education, but in every area of life. You know, you have things like Microsoft Word and PDF files. Everything should be done electronically for students, especially if you're blind and you use some type of a screen reader, whether it's on your iPhone or your iPad or your Android device or your Windows device. There are screen readers out there, you know, just so that educators know. For Windows, it's called JAWS for Windows and NDVA. For Apple, it's VoiceOver. For Android, it's called Google Talkback. So yes, there's no excuse that a child with visual impairment, there's no excuse that even a person who is hearing impaired, especially if you're someone like me who is blind and hearing impaired. I'm not deaf, but I wear a hearing aid in both ears. There should be ways for me to be able to chat and communicate as long as a platform is designed from a technical developmental standpoint with accessibility built in. That's very crucial. And in Emily's case, she shouldn't have had to fight with the teachers to make sure that her work is turned in. In this country, under the ADA, a student should be able to get a reasonable accommodation, whether that's, you know, extra time to turn in assignments, extra time to take a test to be proctored where someone reads the test and assists the student taking the test. There's lots of areas that should be considered, and that people take for granted that they're able to do without any extra help that a child with disabilities shouldn't have to face on any level of their education.
Okay, Lara, I would like to ask you the next question first. What role technology plays in the life of persons with visual impairment?
Well, technology. So that's one of my research areas is educational technology. I think it plays an essential role. Like it is, if we all lived 100 years ago, right? Like we would not have the same access to being able to be a part of education and society as we do now with the educational technology that we have. I also think that it affords us the opportunity to provide similar content in multiple modalities. So, like Emily has a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel for teachers. But whenever I'm teaching, I try to provide whatever materials I'm giving my students, both in video and audio format. And what that actually does is it provides access and support. Sorry, my dog is having a problem in
No
the
issues.
background. It's I'm not abusing a child. That's a dog.
No.
And he wants food. But what I've found in my teaching is that when I'm offering these accessibility options, my students who don't have disabilities appreciate. They would rather hear a podcast or a lecture than read a paper because that's just their preference or their processing. So by offering technology supported options both for input and also for students to produce projects, it actually creates a more inclusive space for all students. And I'm going to go feed my dog really quickly.
Yes, it's
Sorry.
true, and I believe that digital literacy is so important in the lives of everyone. Emily, would you like to shed light on the same question?
Yes, I feel like technology plays an important role in every part of life. Because especially with me not having any vision, I can use like an iPhone app if I'm called Seeing AI by Microsoft to help me identify if I don't remember which, because like cans of like just canned food in general, the cans all feel the same. And if I don't remember how I line them up, I can usually easily scan them with the Seeing AI app and quickly be able to tell which thing is which without having to, wait for assistance or just open it and hope that I open the right thing. And so, and what Laura was saying is like with educational technology, at least with one of the instructors that I worked with, she would offer us like the textbook she had the print copy for the rest of the students, and I had my own accessible copy, but she also gave out the information to the online copy for one of our textbooks because she knew that I did better with the audio instead of sitting down and reading it, because our online textbook has everything broken down into separate chapters by audio files. And so she just gave out the information to everybody because she already had to find it for me. So she figured she might as well give it out to the whole class. And like the whole class came back a week later and was like, that was really helpful because we don't have time to sit down and read a whole chapter of this book. But since you asked us to read this chapter, I can, and we have the audio version, we can listen to it on the way to school, because some of my members of my class had kids. And so when they had the audio version, they could listen to it on the way to school and still be able to do their homework, but not have to, take as much time out. So I think accessibility is not just good for, um, us with disabilities, like it's intended for, but I think it's also good, like, for everyone else. For, like I said, in that situation, the audio files were probably meant for us who have visual disabilities or reading disabilities, but it also helped my classmates who worked long hours outside of school or had kids because they could still listen to the required reading in audio formats and listen to it like a podcast.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to have the different, like it was shared that it's important to share the audio version, the script text version as well. We should have use of QR code. So many things are there that should be taught to others, and for that, I think digital literacy is must for everyone. It's not only about the people who are facing disability; it's all about everyone. If we are teaching teachers, if we are teaching students, everyone should know different formats about the accessibility and all that thing. I'm afraid to say that when I was searching for the websites of different universities across the world, in most of the universities' website, I couldn't find accessibility options. And when they are teaching students about accessibility at university level, they have the courses. Then why aren't they focusing on it? Why aren't they integrating all these things in their own personal genre? So I just want to ask the same question to Jine. Jine, if you want to share that what role technology plays in the life of persons facing vision impairment.
Well, like I said earlier, you know, just technology plays a big role. For me, if I didn't have a screen reader like Jaws, I wouldn't be able to be on this forum. I wouldn't be able to use the computer. I wouldn't be able to even use my phone. Like Emily said, even when you're in school, having the textbook in an audio format to listen to it, even though, there are people who are blind who have learned how to read Braille, still, even if you're reading Braille, being able to even read it as well as read it in Braille at the same time, you have two different mediums to be able to digest the information. Just as a historical fact, audiobooks were not really created for us. They were created for busy moms and dads so they can listen to it in their car when they're driving to work. So that's where audiobooks came from. It happened to benefit us, but it wasn't created for us.
Mhm.
Um, but now that they see the benefit for all, like Emily said, having an audiobook doesn't just benefit us, but it benefits everybody. When things are accessible in other mediums and formats that are more portable, it makes it easier. But if you can access it, even though it's in a portable format, you still have to be able to access it. So the technology still needs to be
Mhm.
accessible to be able to get to that audio file. Because if you have an audio file, say on your phone, and the app to use that audio file is not designed to be an accessible app, you still can't get to that audio file. So technology is very important in education. When I was working on my master's degree, which I started years ago, and unfortunately I haven't finished it yet. Um, trying to talk to the two different schools I went to about how I access information and getting teachers to understand. For example, when I took an economics class, really explaining to my teacher that I cannot do half of the economic work because unfortunately I can't see pictures and graphs. And at the time, I wasn't aware of any resource that would allow me to do a graduate level economics class. So I had to work with my teacher to create accessible, using technology, accessible assignments for me to do to show him that I understood all of the concepts that were related around him teaching economics on a graduate level. So yes, technology plays a big role to be able to do school online, be able to go to school and still obtain your degree without physically being in the classroom. So yes, like Laura said earlier, the emergence of COVID has forced people to do things
Mhm.
more virtually, which will allow folks or people with disabilities to be more connected in a way that they weren't able to be with the barriers of transportation in various cities and towns and municipalities. So yes.
So, before coming towards the last question, I'm curious to ask one personal question to you all. What applications are you people using on your mobile phones and on your laptop, desktop computers for the accessibility? I would like Lara to begin with.
Thank you. And I also want to acknowledge that there were a couple questions in the chat, and I'm hoping that this response will help answer that. Yes. So Janae and Emily both talked about like using JAWS and using some of these other very expensive screen reader programs that may or may not be accessible around the world. However, every device has built-in screen readers. They may not be as good as JAWS, but
Mm,
it's part of how the devices are built, at least here in the United States. So if you check under settings in whatever device, you're looking for accessibility settings. You can find screen readers. Every cell phone has one, every laptop, all the Chromebooks, all of these things actually have built in screen readers.
Yes.
And I personally am cheap. And one of the things I study is what kinds of free apps and free technology is there for teachers, because as teachers in the United States, we get about $100 a year for every piece of um, equipment or materials that we would use for the entire year for 30 to 45 kids.
mhm.
So free is really important. So I know that some of the things we've talked about here are expensive and maybe prohibitive, but look for the things that are already built into the technology devices. Look for those things that are free apps, um, that also have accessibility. And there's a group called Common Sense Media that does reviews of apps, including free for educators. And I would say check out their website. Um, but I use my screen readers are all the ones that are built in to whatever device I'm using.
Okay,
So
so yeah, so open technology and low cost technologies,
yes,
like it should be there. It should be there because everyone is longing for free access options. So why not to go for open technology?
exactly.
That can really help because there are few open source platforms like you have mentioned about Common Sense. In the same way, we have OER Commons. We have and other platforms as well where we can go and can really access a few of the free resources. Janae, if you would like to add that, what softwares are you using beside screen readers for making yourself more accessible to
So,
information?
like Laura said, JAWS is the main screen reader I use. There is another screen reader that is called NDVA. That's an open source screen reader. I don't particularly use that, but I know other people who are blind that do. Like Laura said, if you have an iPhone, there's a built-in screen reader within. If you go to settings and go to accessibility, it's called VoiceOver. That is the
Mhm,
screen reader that is used on all Apple devices, whether you have an iPhone, whether you have an
mhm,
iPad, whether you have an Apple Watch. If you have an Android device, that is called Google Talkback. Again, if you go to settings within your phone, it's already built in. You go to settings and go scroll all the way down to the bottom and look for within settings the category called accessibility. It's called Talkback, and it is the screen reader that is built into all Android devices, whether it's a Android tablet, whether it is a Android phone, no matter whether it's Motorola, Samsung, or LG. If it is an Android enabled TV, there anything that has Android built into it that has Google partnership, that is Google screen readers called TalkBack. And so that's what I use on, because I'm an iPhone user. I use JAWS. I have been an Android user before, so I have used Google Talkback. I used that for about nearly 20 years. That's what I use. I also have a braille display called by a company called Humanware. It's called the Mantis uh, 40 keyboard with 40 cell braille display. And like Laura said, there are free options. So if you can get on Facebook and find groups there are groups out there for technology for the vision impaired, Android support group for the vision impaired. There's an iPhone support group for the vision impaired where you can find out what apps and other free technology-based software that's out there. So sometimes you have to do a little bit of research, but I would encourage you to look into what Laura suggested called Common Sense, where they review apps. There's also a newsletter called Apple Biz, and that talks about things that are their applications and other features for those who are iPhone users.
Okay, Emily.
Um, I am also a iPhone and iPad user, but on my Windows computer, um, I do have like an older version of JAWS because I'm also not going to pay to keep upgrading it because it is super expensive. So I have also been playing around with Narrator, which is the screen reader that is built into Windows, and it is steadily getting better and better every day. Or not every day, but with every major update that Windows does, it's still getting better. So if you are in a situation where downloading things is difficult, like with NVDA, which is the free software, Windows does have a built-in screen reader called Narrator that is steadily getting better with every update that Windows puts out. It's constantly improving. But I use like an app that I've mentioned before called Seeing AI, which helps me identify. They have settings on there to help you identify money. Because like here in the U.S., there's no way for someone who's blind to identify the currency because all the dollar bills feel the same. So it'll tell you like which dollar bill that you have. It'll help you like identify products and take like identify products. It'll read like short text thing, like short spurts of text to you. So that's a really helpful free app. And I also have a Braille Note Touch Plus, which is a note taker from Humanware, which I get a lot of use out of because I am a heavy Braille user. But I just wanted to throw out this free resource. If you are here in the U.S., I don't know outside of the U.S., but here in the U.S., if you are a member of the National Library Service for I think it's called now the Blind and Physically Disabled or something like that, NLS,
Yep, that's
they they now have a Braille display program because I'm a member of it, where they will, in most states, they will send you out a 20 cell Braille display. It is like a
Mhm.
modified version of the human or one of the humanware displays, but that is a free option to get Braille into more hands of students because I believe Braille literacy is really important for blind and visually impaired students.
It is.
Okay.
It is. It
Thank
really
you.
is.
So, the last question, 30 seconds for every one of you. I will start with Jine. Any message for the audience? Any message for the world?
You said what's repeat the question again?
Any message, if you would like to give any message to the audience, to the world, related to disability?
Well, my message to the audience and to the world is that people with disabilities um, are very capable individuals. You just have to be creative and think outside the box and be willing to get to know us. Ask us. Do not assume that we cannot. If you're not sure, ask. If you think we need help or if you don't think we need help, ask us. Get to know us. Do not shun us. Work with us. You may learn something. You may think of you may learn something from us, just like we may learn something from you. Be more open minded because the reality is for many of us, and I'm saying this not necessarily to sound mean, but with the aging process for a lot of us, with age comes eyesight loss and hearing loss. And so, depending on where you are in the world and what your family genetics are, you may end up with some type of impairment or physical challenge or visual challenge. So, you may want to get to know our world so that when that time comes, making those adjustments will not be difficult for you. But I still encourage to get to know us because we're people first. We have feelings, we have dreams and goals and aspirations. Don't just cut us out and exclude us. Be more inclusive to us because you would
Okay.
want the same to be done to you.
Thank you. Emily, any words? Last words?
Um, I definitely agree with what she said as well. Just get to know us. If you have any questions, I'm definitely an open book. Just come ask me because I would rather educate you than you assume and it becomes a problem later. And I also have a YouTube channel. It's called Emily's Journey with Blindness, where that is my main goal is to educate people. If you ever want another free resource to go and figure out like how to help us and learn more things, and just don't be afraid if you see someone out and about with a disability and that you think they need help, just ask them like you would ask any other person. Like it, just pretend like that disability is not even there for a second and just think, how would you ask someone else who is completely sighted or completely normal, how would they need help? Or if you had a disability, how would you like to be asked for help? And don't just assume that we need help, but come up to us and ask us, like, hey, how can I help you? And if we need the help, we will let you know the best way you can assist us. But if we don't need the help in the moment, we will um, tell you thank you and tell you how much it's appreciated that you came up and asked us politely instead of just assuming us and grabbing our arms and trying to pull us where we don't need to go, because you wouldn't do that to someone without a disability.
If I can throw this in before Laura gives her answer, it's just like if you saw an old lady on the street and she's got groceries and she's not disabled, she just happens to be old and elderly, you would go up to her and gently ask her, ma'am, can I carry your groceries? It's the same thing with us. We just may not be able to see well or may not be able to see at all. Just
Mhm.
like you would handle that senior person, that elder person with whatever they need help with, it's the same thing how you would treat us. And if we say no, don't be offended because just like you have ways of doing things, we have ways of doing things as well. But as There's nothing wrong with asking and inquiring. So go
Yeah.
ahead, Laura.
Okay. So the floor is all yours, Laura.
So first of all, absolutely everything that Emily and Janae just said, and to even reinforce further, again, the disability community, it's
Mm-hmm.
unlike many other like ethnicity communities and so on and so forth, like because everyone can be a part of our community whether they choose to be or not at any given time in your life due to what happens in your life, right? So I want to echo that and reinforce that. I want to take a minute to speak specifically to teachers and parents.
Sure, please.
um, there's something called universal design for learning, and I would be happy in the future, Munir, to come in and like help you organize a panel on this.
Sure. Sure.
But all of
Noted.
these accommodations that we've been talking about today, if we offer them to our children and our students, not as, oh, this is something special just for Laura, right? This is something special just for Emily or just for Janae. But if instead we open up our classrooms and our homes, and instead of it being, this is an app that only, you can use and your sister can't use because she's not blind or what all, like I have been providing my students, all of my students, with the same access to the same apps and accommodations that I give my students who have an individualized education program, IEP. And it has made a difference for all of my students. It normalizes the accommodation itself. So it's no longer like, again, stigmatizing the person who has the need for the accommodation. It makes it normal. It's just kids really understand, oh, that's just the way that Janae needs to see or hear things, right? Or that's just the way that Emily is providing us with what she knows, right? It becomes more normal. So
I would
yes,
like to
provide
know
us with
more about that
accommodation.
too.
Yeah, go ahead, Janae.
I would like to know more about that too. I want to be a part of what you're talking about. I want to learn more about that.
Definitely, me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Janae, Emily, Laura, once again, thank you so much for joining this panel discussion. I hope the audience has gained some information, and I've already noted about universal design. We are in the process of working on that panel discussion as well in the future. Um, uh, I would like to request Janae, Emily, and Lara to please stay here. And to the rest of the audience, thank you so much for joining this panel discussion. Take